We don't talk about Bruno, no. We don't talk about the dare. Keep him on the other side of the room. Who's Jack? Hey guys, it's Ems and welcome back to my reading room. Today we are going to be doing my June wrap-up and July TBR. In the month of June, I read 10 books and I really thought I was in a slump this month. I had multiple weeks where I went without reading, but I read so quickly in between weeks that I read 10 books. I read mostly romance this month. That's literally all I read. I did soft DNF'd one and we'll get into that. But I did not specifically DNF it, so it's not really in my June. I started it, but I do want to get back to it at one point, so I'm not going to count it as a DNF yet. Let's get into what I read in June. Starting off with a bang, I read The Chase by Elle Kennedy, and this is the first book in the Briar You series, and this got a 5 stars for me. I absolutely loved this book. I devoured every single thing about Colin and Summer. This is Summer and Colin Fitzgerald, or Fitzy's story. Summer is Dean's sister. Summer is in love with fashion. She's this girly who does all girly girl things. She also is just perfect. I love Summer in every way. Colin is a nerd. He's also a hockey player. And people would say opposites attract. That's what the back of this book says. I don't know. In this story, you have Summer who burns some stuff down at her old school and has to move to Briar U, where the sorority that she's going to is like, no, we're not, you're not coming here. So Summer has to find a place to live, and that place ends up being in a dorm with 3 other boys, where you do see a love triangle. I wouldn't say it's too much of a love triangle, but there is a love triangle in it. I ate it up. You have a lot of tension. You have good friendships. Brenna and Summer in this book are absolutely everything to me. I loved their friendship and their banter, and just the way that Brenna and Summer just immediately were like, yep, we're best friends. Like that is what I want. That is so cute, and I genuinely just enjoyed everything about this book. The part in here where Fitzy just tells her no to a specific thing, and I ate it up. I was like, yes, third act, okay. So I devoured this. I love them. I love their plot line, and they were everything to me. They are the first ever Elle Kennedy book that I've given 5 stars. Obviously next, I read The Risk, which is the second book in Briar U. I gave this book a 4.5. I loved Brenna and Jake Connolly in Summer and Fitzy's book, but in their own book, I did not love them as much, which is an unpopular opinion. I know. I am not in the majority. I enjoyed the book for what it was, but there were specific plot points in here that I did not love, that I could not connect with. I enjoyed Brenna's confidence. I mean, digging into her skin, I loved. It was just, I was not able to connect fully with them. Their romance was so fun. I really like Weston. He's a little cutie, but I definitely enjoyed their story, just not as much as I've enjoyed some of the other Briar U books. I think Jake Connolly is the most handsome man, but not in Briar U. I think he's handsome, but I have a Briar U favorite that we'll get to. Brenna is Coach Jensen's daughter. Coach Jensen is the Briar U hockey team coach, and then you have Jake Connolly. Jake is the captain of Harvard, and Brenna is she's very no. I'm not getting with him. I'm not doing anything with him. He is the enemy. She draws the line at enemy. But then you see their kind of Romeo and Juliet story, I guess, where it's enemies attract. Because I guess I don't consider romance books enemies to lovers, but I guess this is the closest you're gonna get. I enjoyed the third act conflict, but it was a little much for me, so I didn't love it as much. I was not invested in Brenna and Jake enough as characters to love the conflicts going on, if that makes sense. I feel like I've talked about this upcoming book so much that I am not gonna talk about it as much, but since this is my wrap up, I feel like I should talk about it more. You know. We have the third book in Off Campus, which is The Play. Hunter Davenport is my everything. I'm in love with him. He is my favorite Elle Kennedy book boy ever written. I genuinely enjoyed him so much. I did not love him in the first book. The second book, he was there. And then in his own book, I devoured him. Devoured this. I ate him up. And I loved Demi. Demi was literally on top of the world. I genuinely loved her character development. I loved her as a character in general. Them together, they are the reason I realized that I love absolutely love Friends to Lovers. I love childhood Friends to Lovers. They made me think that I love Friends to Lovers in general. There's some stuff that goes on in the first 2 books that you can read those and figure out why. But some stuff goes on with him. I mean, I think they talk about it in here as well if you don't want to read the first 2. But to get like the full backstory, you could read the first 2, and then you have the play where everything goes wrong and Hunter becomes celibate. He's not doing anything with girls. He is there to do schoolwork, and he is in college to play hockey, and he is trying to be the best team captain he can be. Demi is Demi. That's what I'm going to say. Demi's doing this work, and she ends up in a class with Hunter where they meet and they have to do a project together. Demi has a boyfriend at this time, and as it goes on, she does end up single at one point in this book. That is not a spoiler. That is told to you, but I don't really want to tell you why. I feel like that's really good to the plot, and I did not know. I knew that it was going to happen because I read the book and I was like context clues, but I feel like it's so much more fun going into this one blind. The third act conflict, I still think about. And as I said for some of the other books, the third act conflicts don't do it for me because I'm not connected to the characters. I was so connected to Demi and Hunter's relationship and friendship as a whole. I genuinely was like, this third act conflict was so crazy to me that I still couldn't give it anything less than 5 stars. I love them. I enjoyed the family dynamics, kind of. I enjoyed the friendships. Brenna and Summer in here were kind of fun as well, just being little background characters. Hunter and Demi in general, I love them. Connor in here was so fun, which we will get into Connor. I enjoyed Connor so much in this book, and then we'll get there. But I just love the play, and I think if you're going to read any Elle Kennedy book, it should be the play. If you're Friends to Lovers girly. This next one is going to be short and sweet because I don't want to talk about it, okay? We have The Dare. This is the 4th book in Briar U. I gave this book 2 stars. I hated it. And that's like, hated's a strong word. I severely disliked this book. There was so much miscommunication, and the way they talked about themselves, both parties in this book, like they just, like I don't even want to give you a synopsis. Like I just do not want to talk about this book. If you are like me and have to finish out a series, this is Connor and Taylor's story. Connor is on the hockey team. You meet him in Hunter's book. You love him in Hunter's book. I personally loved him in Hunter's book. Then I got to his perspective of himself, and I was like, I can't. There was just this like specific plot line that goes on that I don't love in books in general, and it just was not for me personally. Taylor is in a sorority. You meet her in this book. She gets dared to go up to Connor, and Connor is nice, and they make friendship. I don't know, they make friends. And then they kind of end up fake dating, which this is a fake dating trope. But there's so much miscommunication that I could not do it. You know, like one miscommunication, oh fine, two miscommunication tropes? When they no, I can't talk about it. If you would like to go into The Dare, I would say go into it blind, know that they're fake dating, know that there's some tropes in here that you may not like. But if you're gonna read it, read it. Personally, I would avoid it. But if you're like me and need to finish a series, like, do it. Justice for Hollis and Ruby, Elle Kennedy. I can't believe you just like strung them through the series and then didn't write a book for them. I know that I feel like we got a lot from them, but I feel like being inside their minds, like I would have loved a Hollis and Ruby book. Overall with the Briar U series, we have 2 5 stars, a 4.5, and a 2 stars. So I would round that to like a 4.5 star series if you don't count. I guess that's what rounds it, but we don't talk about The Dare. We don't talk about Bruno, no. We don't talk about The Dare. The next book I read was The Love Interest by Clara Gilmore. This is her debut novel, and I ended up picking this up because I think I was at like a Barnes or something, and I was like, oh, Haley Pham has read this, Sarah Caroli has read this, I want to pick it up. So I did, and I gave this baddie a 4.5. I had been in a slump after reading Briar U, but just because there were 2 really good books in Briar U, and then The Dare kind of like set me off reading. I sat around and I read it right after, like sped through it. I genuinely enjoyed their trope so much. I don't know if I love a workplace romance, but the way Clara Gilmore wrote this book was I devoured it. It's a workplace romance, enemies to lovers. I know y'all, Book Talk 2020 and 2021 would have eaten this book up. I don't know. It's about Alex and Casey. Casey signs up for this workplace office job, and she's really hoping she gets it, but then Alex gets it, and she still has to work with him. Even though she did not get the main point job, she's still like now under him. So she's having to work with this guy that like kind of took her out of her job, and she does not like him. And he's kind of loved by everybody in the office. He's kind of just loved by everybody. We're getting a very specific workplace romance in here. They are genuinely working together a lot. There are multiple things where they have to work together, and you just have to see them kind of warm up to each other. I really enjoyed this debut novel, and I definitely want to read more by Claire Gilmore. Here is when we get into more of my reading slump. I could not figure out what to rate a lot of these books. I started Begin Again by Emma Lord. This is a college romance. At first you have Candy Rose, who is transferring from her community college to Blue Ridge to be with her boyfriend. Well, it's not only to be with her boyfriend. I would not say that it's to be with her boyfriend. She's really going there because she has always wanted to go to this Blue Ridge college. She's always wanted to go here. This is where her mother went, and her mother has now passed. So she's going there to get close to her mother. She has a strained relationship with her father. So she's trying to go there to like see how they met, kind of what happened between them, while also her boyfriend is going there. Some stuff happens to where there's kind of a funny mix-up, and she meets Milo. You see her do a lot of stuff in her mother's footsteps. You see her break out of the shell. I really enjoyed this YA novel. I think I very much enjoy Emma Lord's writing. I read Tweet Cute last year, and I definitely enjoyed that one as well. There's so much self-love and finding yourself in this book. There was some stuff in here that made it go slow for me just because I was like kind of tense reading it, and I think that was because I was in a slump. I was just reading it in the car, but I definitely enjoyed this so much. And if you are going to read Begin Again, I believe I gave it a 3.5. I'll put it right here. I'm not totally sure, but I definitely enjoyed it a lot. And if you are looking for a cutesy YA novel with like a lot of tropes in it, I think this one is definitely fun. Now we get into some of my more fun reads of this month, but we read Not in Love by Ali Hazelwood, and I gave this book a 3.5. I enjoyed Jack and Rue. Is that who? No, oh my gosh, who's Jack? I enjoyed Eli and Rue a lot. I went into this book with very little expectations because I just did not know what it was about. In the beginning, it does tell you that this is one of her most spicy books. That is for a reason. The workplace in here, I was having so much fun with, but them as two characters, I saw their chemistry a lot, but it was just so slow for me that I did not love it as much as I thought I would. Ali Hazelwood writing is so quick and fast paced, but there's some plot lines that go on that just kind of dragged on that I just did not love. I think they learn to be mature, and there's so much growing in this book that I loved a lot. But I tend to give Ali Hazelwood books around 3.5 to 4 stars, so this is definitely right in my like alleyway for her. I didn't mean to use that word, but like that's kind of funny. I enjoy her writing so much, and I think if you're gonna read any of her books, it should be loved theoretically. This is about Rue, who works in this office. This is where her friends are. This office is her family, and she meets this guy one night, but nothing happens. And then she goes into work the next day, and this guy is there. He's there to take over where she works, the company in general. He is there to take it over. And there was multiple other people. She realizes that this ends up kind of being like a forbidden office romance where she should not be with him. And you don't really, does she want to be with him? Does he want to be with her? You see that in here. I really enjoyed Eli. As a book boyfriend in general, he was such a cutie pie, and he said some of the darndest things. I think I literally underlined, I know I underlined something in here. I don't know where, I don't know. I don't really underline in my books, but I underlined some stuff in here just because he was so good with his words, which means just Miss Ali Hazelwood is so good at writing. The next one was my most anticipated read of June. It is the second book in the Lakefront Billionaire series. This is Rafa and Ellie's story. I gave this 4 stars, but there is a big but. I could not rate this for the life of me. I finished this book and had no thoughts. My head was quite literally empty, and when I went to write my review, like I was able to tell you what I loved about this book, but I could not figure out a rating. Figured out 4 stars. I think it could be more, it could be less. I literally do not know, but I think 4 stars is good for what I felt. I really liked Ellie. She was like everything to me. She was such a cutie, and I just enjoyed her story and her as a little character in general. Nico was the cutest little guy ever, and I really enjoyed him, and I want the world for him, and I feel so bad for I can't. Rafa was your stereotypical grovel, doesn't want love kind of guy, and I really enjoyed that. I think he had some great moments, and I definitely think I underlined some stuff in this book as well. Maybe. I don't know. I'm like trying to look through to see where my underlines are. Girl, you are not gonna find it. Rafa is obviously a billionaire. He works on a company. He's very into working, and Ellie is there to nanny Nico. Her and Nico get along really well. She teaches him music. Ellie is this music girl. She does a lot of lyrics. Some stuff happened in her past where you kind of see that come full front in the music industry with her. And I think if you've read Love Redesign, you should definitely pick up Love Unwritten. We're getting into a little area that I did not know I was gonna pick up. When you go into Barnes & Noble, this is on like the spicy table. And then I read the book and I was like, oh God, okay. I started Twisted Love by Miss Anna Huang. I have heard infamous things about this author. She has so many books. She's like on the tables everywhere. And I was in the mood for an interconnected standalone series. I had been craving it, still am. Well, not really much right now, but I was like genuinely just craving a interconnected standalone series, and I picked up Twisted Love, and oh my gosh! We have Alex and Ava, and this is a brother's best friend trope. Alex is Josh, Ava's brother's best friend, and they kind of have known each other for a good amount of time, but never really spoken until Josh goes away one day, and Alex is kind of there to protect her. But I think it was super fun. I would not want Alex Volkov to touch me with a 20-foot pole. Keep that man as far away from me as possible. Keep him on the other side of the room. He is great for Ava. I'll say that. But for me, no, thank you. This is a 3.5. I really enjoyed the plot in here. There was some backstory that I didn't love, and it kind of like gave me the heebie-jeebies, so I just couldn't like fully digest this book, but I did enjoy it, and it made me immediately go pick up the second one because I just think her writing was so captivating. You know when you read a Wattpad book that is just so insane, like it's like 3 a.m. and you're reading a Wattpad book that just like takes so many twists and turns, and then you just like have to keep going even though you're like, girl, what is this? That's how I felt with Twisted. I was like, oh my gosh, there was so much going on, and I couldn't put it down. I read Twisted Games, and I gave this a 4.75 because, oh my Reese Larson. Everything about this man. You know that TikTok sound where it's actually like from this book where it's like, he's too old for you. Negative. I love older men. Reese. I loved being in his point of view. I probably could find my underline. There's like an underline near the end, no? Okay, I need to stop trying to find my underline because like, girl, you are not gonna find your underline in this thick book. You have no tabs. You are not gonna find your underline. But I really enjoyed Reese as a character, and he is definitely new book boyfriend. Like, I see what everyone sees in him because just some of the stuff he would say. Miss Anna Huang, you know how to write a man. You know how to write a bodyguard. I loved Bridget just as much. Just as much as kind of crazy. I really enjoyed Bridget as well. Just her humbleness and her being a princess, and some of the other stories as well. Like, I really enjoyed them. I loved their story. It was a 4.75 because I could not find a plot point that I didn't love, and I do think it could be a 5. I just gave it a 4.5 because I was like, I don't know if it's a 5 stars. But on my Goodreads, I wrote, this could end up being a 5 stars if I keep thinking about it, and I'm still thinking about it. Once I finish Twisted as a whole, I think that's when I'll figure out if I'm like, okay, yes, this was a 5 star, or okay, yeah, 4.75. Bridget is a princess, and she is going to college in New York. You have a then to now timeline. In part 1, you're kind of having like then, and 2, you're having now. Part 1 is following around the same timeline as Twisted Love. Part 2, you're kind of in her own like set timeline where you kind of follow that. In here you have Reese, who is Bridget's bodyguard. He gets put onto this job by somebody in his workforce, and he is a recovering military guy. He was in the military, and now he is doing all that bodyguarding jazz. He has rules. He's like, never get involved with a client. He is just there to protect. And then him and Bridget kind of hit it off. And not at first. They are enemies to lovers because they do not get along at all. There are some times where they get along, there's some times where they don't get along. I enjoyed every minute of it, and I enjoyed Bridget, and I enjoyed Reese, and I enjoyed the family dynamics. I think there was some stuff in here that happened, and the third act conflict I didn't love, but I understood it enough to be like, okay, yeah, like I love this book. And that was the last thing I read in June. Twisted Games with a 4.75, maybe 5 stars if I keep thinking about it. I'll let y'all know on Goodreads. So those were my ratings on the 10 books that I read in June. Now we can get into my July TBR. It is not too long on my July TBR, but I definitely want to get into it. A round of applause for the 10 books that I read in June because I think that's one of the most that I've read this year. Heading into my July TBR, it is a bit short because I am going to be quite busy in the month of July, but I have some books that I want to read. Starting off, I do want to finish the Twisted series. I am 45 pages into Twisted Hate right now, and then I want to get Twisted Lies, so I do want to read Twisted Hate and Twisted Lies in July. I'm super excited to get more into this one because I'm definitely devouring it right now. Another one is Reckless. It comes out tomorrow. I'm filming this July 1st. It comes out July 2nd. I'm so excited. I cannot wait to get my hands on Reckless because I want to read this immediately. Like, I'm going to pick it up and I'm going to immediately put my head into it, even though I'm in the middle of Twisted right now. I'm going to pause Twisted and I'm going to read Reckless because I cannot wait. Another thing I want to read is Business Casual when it comes out. This one is not out until like mid-July, but I definitely want to read it because it'll finish Love Like Farms for me, and I definitely want to read that. Another one that I want to read is Hello Stranger by Catherine Center. I don't know if I want to read it in July or August, but I do want to get my grubby little hands to read this because it is autographed. So I think because it's autographed, it makes me want to read it even more. I went to a little bookstore and it was Miss Catherine Center had been there before me, and that vlog will be out later. You'll see that at some time, but I'm just so excited, and I definitely want to read Hello Stranger because I read The Bodyguard and I really enjoyed The Bodyguard. The last book, I'm not sure if it comes out in July or if I'll like end up reading it in August, but it is The Fiancé Dilemma by Elena Armas. I've read all her other books, and I don't know if this one comes out at the end of July, which maybe I'll read it in August, but I do want to read this hopefully in July if it comes out in July. That is all for my TBR and my wrap up. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really hope y'all enjoyed. I have an Instagram if you want to check that out where I do books to stuff. If you want to check out my TikTok, I have a TikTok. Enjoy my reels, my shorts. They're all TikToks that will be on my TikTok account. I have some other vlogs and videos that you can go check out on my mid-year wrap up, Let's Talk About Kennedy, all those kind of videos. And if y'all enjoyed that, if you enjoyed this, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. It supports the channel, and I couldn't thank you enough for being here. I hit my June goal of 80 subscribers, so thank you guys so much. I can't wait to spend July doing some book videos with y'all. So I will see you next time. Thank you for coming to my little library. Bye. See you later.
Spectacular. Give me 14 of them right now.
Really?
Mm-hmm.